either a big personality or a big career. He's definitely got both. So the people with Venus-Mars conjunctions, they get into relationships that are not good for them, and then they have to get out of them, and they have lots of those relationships. But it's not just love at first sight. It's not just physical sexual passion.
In the series of Guru Purnima, we will be doing Mahatma Gandhi's chart. Sir.
Okay, so I'm not a scholar of Mahatma Gandhi. I know a certain amount about him, but you know, I assume that most of your students or most of the people watching this will know 10 times more about Gandhi than me. I saw a couple of movies. I read a little bit. But I do want to talk about the chart a little bit.
We want a different perspective from your answer. People will see how you see that chart.
Okay. So this is a phenomenal chart. There's no question about it. As I said earlier, most people have fame from either a big personality or a big career. He's definitely got both. Got both. I want to mention the Mars-Venus conjunction. So the Mars-Venus conjunction, in the scriptures, it will say that a person with Venus-Mars in an angle is a leader. Venus-Mars in the first, Venus-Mars in the fourth, Venus-Mars in the seventh, Venus-Mars in the 10th. Any of those are likely to produce a person with leadership energy. So you'll see a lot of people with Venus-Mars conjunctions, and they don't even need to be that tight to make the leader, but the tighter they are, the stronger the tendency for leadership. Bill Clinton has Venus-Mars in the first house. There's lots of people that have angular Venus-Mars. Venus-Mars is a very passionate feature. In the class, in the classes that I'm doing, one of the charts that I analyzed is that of the actor Al Pacino, who has a phenomenally important Venus-Mars conjunction, partly because it's a tight Venus-Mars and partly because they are opposite the moon. So the Venus-Mars is in the chart. It's also a Venus-Mars angular from the moon. It's leadership. It's also very passionate and very artistic. One of the things that is very amazing about this to me is that people with Venus-Mars conjunctions, their passions are sexual, they're physical. They get into relationships that are not good for them because the passions and the chemistry is so strong, but they don't necessarily have anything in common with the other person. It's just the passions are so strong. So the people with Venus-Mars conjunctions, they get into relationships that are not good for them, and then they have to get out of them, and they have lots of those relationships. But it's not just love at first sight. It's not just physical sexual passion. It also means that the person wants a passionate life. So if you see a Venus-Mars in any house, in any horoscope, not only do they have extreme love passions and get into relationships that are purely based on physical attraction, but they also have a life that is passionate. That's very, very, very important. I have that Venus-Mars, and I always tell the story of when I was in high school going off to college. I said, I want a passionate life. I want a passionate life. That's the Venus-Mars, but also in an angle. What amazes me is that this guy ever wanted to be celibate and was able to be celibate. From what I read, he tried over and over and over and finally achieved it. I don't know how somebody with Venus-Mars conjunct actually is able to do that, but he was able to do that. If they were in Capricorn, where Mars was exalted, when Mars is in Capricorn, the person has great control. But it's pretty amazing to me that a man, not only with Venus-Mars tight, but with Venus-Mars in the first house, that's his basic personality, is passionate. And I mean passionate about everything. And I mean passionate with love matters. And especially because Venus-Mars aspecting that seventh house, it is also going to make more passion. The 10th house, Moon and Rahu in the 10th. So the moon, you always have to take as being the planet of the masses, the public. Rahu, which is the node, it's the north node of the moon. So Rahu has a connection to the moon. It's just by nature, it's the moon's north node. Rahu in the career house means it means cravings and desires for career. The person leaves home early because they're craving a big career. That's Rahu in the 10th. And Rahu in the 10th is a career where you affect people all over the globe. I have Rahu in the 10th house. When I tried to do astrology just in my town, getting clients, it didn't work very well. When I wrote my book, suddenly people were contacting me from all over the world. It worked much better because it's a big career. This is obviously a big career. Rahu in the 10th house alone is going to want to affect the mass. Then it's Rahu in Cancer, the sign of the moon, which is the masses again. Then you have the moon in its own sign in the 10th, which is again dealing with the mass. So this is big for the mass. And also the moon is about caring for people, nurturing people, caring for people. So one of the things where I usually go wrong, where I occasionally go wrong, is I can pretty much see the healers in a horoscope, people that want to be in medicine, people that want to be healing people, healing others. I'm always looking for the 6th house for healers. Sometimes the 6th house is not prominent. The moon is very prominent. And then you start to see, oh, the person wants to nurture people. They want to heal people. And this could simply be the moon being conjunct the 10th house ruler, a career connected to the moon, which is healing or nurturing. Could be the moon in the 1st house. Could be the moon with the ascendant ruler. The moon is nurturing and caring for people. In this case, we're just dealing with the public. The moon in the 10th, Rahu in the 10th, it's dealing with the public. There's no doubt about it. And that is a huge career. The 7th house here is massively powerful. The strongest houses in this chart would be the 1st, the 7th, and the 10th. I can't tell you which one is more powerful because they're all monster houses. So when you see a 7th house so why is it powerful? It's powerful because the ruler of the 7th house. So there's planets in a house and there's the ruler of a house. The ruler of the house is the foundation. So I usually say to people, like when I studied astrology in India, the astrologers my mentors couldn't tell me which was more important, the planets in the house or the ruler of the house. They couldn't tell me. As I thought about it, as I worked with it, there's no doubt the ruler of the house is more important. Why? Because it's the foundation. So let's say that you have a home. Somebody gives you a home. Would you prefer to have a home where the furniture and the chandeliers and the gold ornaments inside the house are wonderful, but the foundation has termites or the foundation has mold? No, you would say, give me the house with a strong foundation. I can always fix the furniture and the things inside, but the foundation must be strong. So if you get a horoscope where the 1st house has good planets in it, or good planets aspecting the 1st house, or good planets aspecting the ruler of the 1st house, but if the ruler of the 1st house is completely annihilated, it's in the 8th or the 12th, it's fallen in the worst degree of its fall, it's right next to Saturn, any of these, or it's right next to a fallen Saturn. If the foundation is very bad, even though the planets in the house may be great, the person may look good, people may favor them, they may look good, and they may feel good too. But underneath it is a complete void. Underneath the confidence, something is completely missing, and that's really bad. So in this case, Mars is possibly, I would say definitely, Mars is the strongest planet in the horoscope. Why? Because it's 2 degrees from Venus in Venus's own sign. It's 2 degrees away from Venus in Venus's own sign. That's way better than just being next to Venus. And it's 2 degrees. Then we have Mars next to Mercury as well. So Mars is with 2 benefics. It's angular. It's not a good sign in Libra. Doesn't matter. It's right next to Venus in Venus's own sign. It's next to Mercury and it's aspected by Jupiter. Jupiter. So Mars and the aspect that Jupiter throws onto Mars is within 2 degrees. So Mars is aspected by Venus within 2 degrees, aspected by Jupiter within 2 degrees. And a third benefic is there, Mercury. And Mars is angular. Mars is phenomenally powerful and it rules the 7th. Now look at the 7th. The 7th is being aspected by its own ruler, Mars. It's holding Jupiter. It's being aspected by Mercury and Venus. Oh my God. The 7th house would be, in my opinion, stronger than the 1st because the ruler of the 7th is phenomenal and all the aspects on the 7th are phenomenal. Whereas the 1st house is fantastic, but that Venus is next to Mars in a bad sign. So to me, if I had a choice of which house I would prefer, it would be the 7th. It's phenomenal. Now, this is interesting because a person's greatest ability and talent also winds up to be their greatest liability. Something I really didn't know until recently. I live on Mount Soma, which is a mountain in North Carolina with a Vedic temple. It's a wonderful Vedic temple. It's about 1,000 feet away from my house. I walk past it every day. I go in it every so often. Something I did not know. Well, let me start with this. The seventh house is holding Jupiter, and it's aspected by Mercury and by Venus, etc. And when you have Jupiter in the seventh house, you have a person that is very empathetic. They're very empathetic. In fact, when I'm doing horoscopes of people that have a strong sixth house for healing, if they also have Jupiter in the seventh, I say, oh my God, this person's going to be the greatest psychologist or healer because they're so empathetic. That's Jupiter in the seventh. So Gandhi was so intent on on having the whole country be together, not having the Muslims in some other place and the Indians in one place. He wanted peace with everybody. He wanted, love and happiness and peacefulness for everybody, not our people and your people. And he worked for that. And I find out now that also got him into a lot of trouble. People say, oh, he went too far. Who knows? But this guy is going to care about everybody. This is a man who, because of that seventh house, he can't be thinking me, if I get what I want. No, it's got to be everybody gets what they want, which is wonderful. But as I said, from what I'm hearing from some of the Indians, it caused all kinds of trouble. And that's part of why he got assassinated. It's a long story. But anyway, the caring about other people here is phenomenal. The ability to be doing business. Now, he's not a businessman, he's a spiritual man, but he could interact with people from that seventh house. I also want to mention the Jupiter-Mars. So the Jupiter-Mars aspect is a rough aspect. Now, we would say, oh, it's fantastic for Mars being aspected by Jupiter, but it's bad for Jupiter being aspected by Mars. So he could have some liver, gallbladder, spleen problems. He could have some problems with gurus or spiritual teachers, whatever. But the Mars opposite Jupiter aspect is an aspect which it makes Mars very, very strong. When Mars is very strong, if you have Jupiter conjunct Mars or Jupiter opposite Mars, if you put that person on a stage, if they're in a play on a stage, they will dominate. Their charisma will dominate. If there's 5 people on a stage, you'll be looking at the person that has Jupiter conjunct Mars or Jupiter opposite Mars. I think this is one Laurence Olivier had. I think it was the opposition, if I remember. But Jupiter-Mars is great for people on stage. It does cause arrogance. I don't think this is going to be a problem with Gandhi, but I'm telling you that Jupiter-Mars, people with Jupiter-Mars do not do well with gurus and spiritual teachers. They do not do well with religion. They don't care what the religion says. They want justice. They don't care what the rules and regulations are. But it can make a person arrogant because Jupiter is the religion, the philosophy. It's the philosophy. And Mars is very personal. Mars is about me getting what I want. So if you see clients that have Jupiter-Mars conjunct or opposite, they're going to have very strong opinions, and other people will accuse them of being arrogant. They'll say, well, I'm not arrogant. I just have strong opinions. But that's something that you're going to witness. I always found it interesting that he has Saturn in the second house, which is the house of speaking. Saturn is the Raja Yoga Karaka, the royal union indicator. So even though it's Saturn, it will also give some good energy to that second house because it's a Raja Yoga planet. It forms a Raja Yoga because Saturn rules the 4th and the 5th house. For most ascendants, you need 2 planets to form a Raja Yoga. If you have Gemini or Virgo ascendant, you have to have a Venus-Mercury conjunction somewhere in the horoscope, and that would form a Raja Yoga for the Gemini or Virgo ascendant. But for the Libra ascendant, Saturn alone, every Libra ascendant horoscope you see has a built-in Raja Yoga. Saturn will form a Raja Yoga. If you have a Taurus horoscope ascendant, Saturn, again, in Libra, Saturn rules 4 and 5, good house. In Taurus ascendant, Saturn rules 9 and 10, good house. So the Taurus ascendant has a Raja Yoga. If you have a Cancer ascendant, Mars immediately forms a Raja Yoga because it rules a royal union, a kingly union. It rules the 10th and the 5th. So wherever the Raja Yoga is, there will be some good effect. Now, Mars and Saturn are malefics. They will cause problems. in the Cancer ascendant, wherever they are. Saturn will cause problems for the Libra and Taurus ascendant, wherever it is. But it will also bring great energy as well. Now, this is something some of my students are having troubles with. They email me after watching a class, and they want astrology to be simple. It's either good or it's bad. How can it be both? It is. You don't know people, you don't have people in your lives who are really good and really bad, have some really good qualities, and they have some flaws. You have to get used to that kind of confusing element. They say that's why Einstein was so great, was because he was comfortable with confusion. And by the way, I'm going to use in my classes, I put 3 horoscopes in every class and we go over them. I'm going to be using Einstein's chart for the 8th house, Now, I could be using B.V. Raman, and I might use B.V. Raman for that class, but I'm definitely going to use Einstein because he's got Mars exalted in the 8th with Rahu, and that makes him Mars is aggressive and Rahu is aggressive, and they're well placed because Mars is exalted in the 8th. So he was like just aggressive at research, going deep like that. Anyway, the Saturn in the 2nd house caused financial restrictions early on. So if you have a Raja Yoga, if it's just a regular Saturn in the 2nd house, you may have money problems your whole life. But if it's Saturn well aspected, that'll be better. And if it's a Raja Yoga Saturn, the money will be problematic early on, but it will get better because Saturn's a Raja Yoga planet and it will eventually function. It'll still always retain its Saturn qualities, but it will also be a royal union in the house of money. But what I always found fascinating was the 2nd house is speaking. And he should be good speaking. Mercury's right on the ascendant, aspected by Jupiter and Venus. Mercury's good. However, the Saturn in the house of speech made him extremely shy to speak. This is kind of hard to believe because this 1st house is a monster 1st house. Mercury right on the ascendant is very talkative. Mercury, Venus, aspected by Jupiter, a good 1st house for confidence. But the 2nd house, the Saturn, from what I read, he gave up his very first court case as a lawyer. He gave it to somebody else because he couldn't bear the speaking. He couldn't get up and speak in front of a group. And then he becomes one of the greatest orators ever. That has to do with that Saturn, that Raja Yoga Saturn. And Saturn would not mature until the 36th year. Remember, these planets, they mature at a particular age. Gandhi, the ruler of his 1st house is Venus. Venus comes of age in the 25th year of life. So between 24 and 25 is when Gandhi could feel some sense of who he really is, because Venus rules the 1st house. By the way, something fascinating, people don't know this, but I've said it in all my lectures. Venus rules mathematics. So you see Einstein having a very highly exalted Venus. You see there's an Indian Ramanjaman. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's a very, very famous mathematician. Venus is in the 5th house. Venus is in the 5th house in Libra. Venus rules mathematics. When I heard this, I nearly fell off my chair, but I started to see all the accountants, Venus in the 6th house, or just very strong Venus, they become accountants. But the mathematicians also have these Venuses. Einstein with a very, very highly exalted Venus near the 25th degree of Pisces. Very, very highly exalted. Sorry, I think it's near the 27th degree. Maybe it's in 25, but his Venus is near the 27th degree. And then you see, so you see Venus for mathematics. Here's the thing. The mathematician around the age of 24, 25, 26, they make these huge contributions. The year that Venus matures is the 25th year. So they around 24, 25, 26, they're much better in their 20s than they are in their 40s, the mathematicians. But anyway, from the 1st house, confidence looks great. But as I said, the Saturn in the 2nd house would cause some difficulties there with speaking and such. The Sun in the 12th house, the Sun is the Atmakaraka, the indicator of the soul. Don't be confused by the Gemini Atmakaraka. I would not mix the system. In Gemini, the planet in the highest degree is the Atmakaraka. Okay. We're doing Parashara, and in Parashara, the Sun is the indicator of the soul. The Sun is in the 12th house, meditation, introspection. And it's also the house of prison. So, there would have been, the Sun is a soul. So even though this is a worldly horoscope, the Moon and Rahu in the 10th wants to be, with the public. all these planets in the first house is gaining recognition. And by the way, something I've been talking about for the last 2 years since I wrote the Braha Sutras, when a planet is in the same sign as Rahu, that planet is going to be easy to access. Why? Because the south node, Ketu, in the Western chart tells us what the person did in past lives. The north node, Rahu, tells us what the person's supposed to do in this life. I don't remember Gandhi's Western chart, but let's assume it's similar to the Hindu, where Ketu, south node in the fourth, north node in the 10th. That would mean the south node in the fourth would mean past lives was all about home and family. North node is the public and the career. So if there's a planet near that north node, near that Rahu, you're already going toward the north node anyway. That's what you're here to do, is pursue the new territory. So if Mercury is near that area of new territory, it's going to be very easy to access Mercury and become a speaker. If Jupiter's near the north node, it's going to be very easy to get to the Jupiter, the religion. It doesn't mean you will. It means if you do. So if he goes toward the moon, which is healing, caring for people, and the public, it's going to go very well. The public loved him, adored him, Mahatma. So this is definitely a worldly horoscope. It is the sun. It is the sun, which is in the 12th, aspected by Ketu within 4 degrees, 5 degrees, 12 to 17. Ketu is aspecting, so the sun's already, the Atmakaraka, the planet of the soul, is in the house of enlightenment, meditation, aspected by Ketu, which is psychic, metaphysical, astrological, otherworldly, and Ketu is aspecting the sun in Virgo, which loves Rahu and Ketu. So the sun in this horoscope is so enormously spiritual and metaphysical. Otherwise, this would not be at all a spiritual chart. It would simply be, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. But it's a spiritual person. And also, the other thing about it is, and this is very rare, I have to tell you, this is a rare horoscope, because when you get people with 3 planets in the first house aspected by another benefic, when you get people with a first house like this, it's all about me, 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 look at me, look at me, look at me. But the 7th house is stronger than the first. Again, why is it stronger? Because Mars is the strongest planet, and Mars is aspecting the 7th. And then Jupiter, Mercury, Venus connected to the 7th. Whereas the first house, as strong as it is, it's not as strong as the 7th. So that 7 is, so he's thinking about other people. And he has the charisma. It's it's very rare. I was talking about Al Pacino's horoscope, and I was saying how out of all the artists that you see in films and on stage, it's very much about the ego. Acting is, they asked Laurence Olivier, why did you want to be an actor? He says, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. But Al Pacino, his horoscope is not about fame and it's not about money. Yes, he has fame and money, but that's not what shows up in the horoscope. What shows up in his horoscope is the most passionate love of the arts. It's a horoscope of passion, and you see that there's all these actors, but the passion that comes out of him is beyond the others, and it's the love of the art. And if you read, there's a book about Al Pacino. It's about 30 interviews all packed into one book, and when he talks, that's all he talks about is the creativity and the artistic energy. And that's the reason that Al Pacino, in between his films, goes back to the stage. And he said, there was this high wire act, the Walenkas, I can't remember the name, but it was a family of high wire people that would walk on the high wire. And somebody died, and this guy Walenka, or whatever his name was, he continued to be on the high wire. They said, how could you do it after you saw somebody die? He said, because life for me is on the wire. Everything else is waiting. And for Al Pacino, being on the stage, being acting and the artistic, everything else was waiting. That's an artist chart, as opposed to the fame and recognition. So the interesting thing about Gandhi's chart is it's got all the fame from the first house. It's got all the fame from the 10th house. And yet it's more about helping other people because of the 7th house being stronger, and because the sun is completely spiritual and metaphysical and psychic. It's very rare. You don't usually see it like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
The fourth house has some problems.
Yes. Ketu Sack.
It's the Mars. You have 3 malefic influences. You have Ketu in the 4th, Saturn aspecting the 4th, Mars aspecting the 4th. That's too many malefic.
Correct.
Yes, the moon aspects the 4th. Great. But 3 malefic and 1 benefic. It's not good for the 4th house. for the mother. However, Saturn's aspecting its own sign.
Yes.
Mars is aspecting its exaltation sign. Notice the degree of Mars, 27th degree. Mars's highest point of exaltation is the 28th degree. This Mars is in the 27th degree. It's already giving some good energy. Now, again, Mars and Saturn hitting that fourth is bad, no doubt. But Saturn's aspecting its own sign, which will make the mother stronger. Mars is aspecting the fourth house, which will make the mother stronger. And Mars is aspecting the 27th degree of Capricorn, right next to the highest point of exaltation. So there are problems there. There could be problems in his sense of happiness in the heart. There could be problems with the mother. I don't think Saturn and Mars aspecting the fourth house is going to be bad for real estate. For real estate, those are two planets of real estate. He could have an ashram, he could build a building, but the fourth house for the mother is going to be, there's going to be some detriment, some problems with the mother, and yet the mother will still be super strong. That's the likelihood. I have no idea about his mother, but I'm just telling you how it normally works. Jupiter rules the sixth house, and it is aspected very, very tightly by Mars. Yes, it's got some protection from Mercury and Venus, but it's still, it's aspected very, very tightly by that Mars. And it rules the house of health. So, and he lived a long time. I didn't realize he was in his late 70s when he was in his 70s when India got independence. I didn't know that. But that Jupiter in the sixth would be, ruling the sixth, that Jupiter would cause liver, gallbladder, spleen, or allergies or things like that. I wouldn't be worried about his health because that first house is so strong. He's got a very, very strong constitution there. Now look at, his death was by a gunshot. So watch this. The eighth house ruler is 2 degrees away from Mars in a bad sign. The eighth house is life and death. The eighth house ruler is 2 degrees away from Mars in a bad sign. Not just Mars, but Mars in Libra. That's bad. Now we're looking at a dangerous possibility. And then we have Saturn and Ketu aspecting the eighth house.
Mars.
So, yeah, predicting the kind of death is not an easy thing to do. I don't do it often. But when it's kind of like, this looks kind of clear like that.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And so if people, by the way, the classes are going to be ready in October. If people, want to get an email about it, they can just check back on my website in October.
So you can just give me the link. I will post it on my YouTube. I have a following. We have a following. Okay. We have a Facebook group also.
Okay.
Whenever you are ready, you just send me the link to purchase the course. We'll definitely post it separately so that people get a reminder. They might forget. After seeing today's session, they might forget or they might remember, but we'll put a reminder to them in October, whenever your classes are ready, whenever you are ready with the classes.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, if they want to be put on the list, they can email me now, if they want. Otherwise, they can do it.
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
People can connect to sir. Emails are already there in each and every of his videos. In this video also, I'll be sharing all the links, books, and email also. And
how many videos have we done together now?
Sir, I think about 10 to 12. I'll just have a look and just let you know in a minute. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, and wish you a very happy Guru Purnima.
Yes, thanks to all the gurus. Thanks to my guru of astrology, PM Padia. I believe he's still in Bombay.
Yes, I had called him up after our sessions, and I told him I want to meet you. He said, I don't meet anyone nowadays. I don't do astrology much. So
let me see how old he is. He must be around 90 or something like that. So give him.
He told me exactly that.
Hold on one second. Let me see how. Okay, Popola. So he was born in 1939. He is now 83, 84.
Yes. So, and thank you, viewers, for giving us so much love and appreciating our videos. Thank you so much. Have a great.
Thank you.
Thank you.